The minutes will be approved as submitted. Next item, please.
Next item is oral communication. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision, and the matter may be referred to staff for an investigation and a report through the Executive Director.
Thank you. First speaker is Richard Espiritu.
Good afternoon, members of the Housing Authority and staff and members of the audience. My name is Richard Espiritu. Mr. Kasakian, would you please hand this to all the members of the Housing Authority? And would you also give this to the chair and to Mr. Garcia and keep one for yourself? Ladies and gentlemen, several months ago, myself and members of the Ivy Glen Tenants Association went to the Housing Historical Commission, and we talked about termites in the Good House and at Ivy Glen residential public housing project. We presented to them at the time that HUD termite inspectors, not us, HUD termite inspectors, found in February that there were termites infesting the Good House as well as Ivy Glen residents. Mr. J. Platt, city staff member who was to the commission, informed me by a telephone conversation that Ability First had received 3 separate bids for termite extermination for both the Good House and for Ivy Glen, to be started on or about January the 15th. As of today's date, no one from Ability First has informed any of the tenants that this will happen, where they will go, and where their emotional support animals be housed. As an alternative to tenting and fumigating the house of the Ivy Glen for 3 days and 2 nights, we would like to respectfully suggest an alternative, which would be orange oil. I left documentations about orange oil for the chair, and will be made copies for all the members of the commission of the Housing Authority. Orange oil would be more environmentally friendly than tenting and fumigating. It would be less traumatic for the tenants to be picked up and relocated. It will also be a little bit easier on the emotional support animals not to be separated from their owners. We respectfully request the commission and staff ask Ability First if they would respectfully consider using orange oil as an alternative, and if they do not wish to do orange oil, we would like them to notify the tenants as to when they will start the tenting, extermination of the termites, where they will be housed, and where their emotional support animals will be housed. As far as anything else is concerned, we would respectfully suggest that the city and this Housing Authority do that. Due to the fact that I have about a minute and 30 seconds left, the last time I was at the City Council in the month of December, I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a Happy Kwanzaa, a Happy Ramadan from me and my family, and I would also like to wish everybody a very Happy New Year. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Could I ask a question, please, Mr. Espiritu?
Yes.
Which is, just so that I'm clear, the building that's going to be tented that has the termites, that's the Good House, which is used as a common house, right? Not the living quarters of the residents?
Also the living quarters.
So they're going to termite the entire facility?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
So they don't know, in other words, they're talking about tenting, about moving them out in January, and they don't know where they're going to be moved to?
That is
Is that what you're
correct.
saying? Okay.
On or about the 15th, Mr. Platt had informed me they would tent both the Good House and Ivy Glen to get rid of the termites because the termites are infesting both facilities.
Okay. Then I will ask staff. I think that's very reasonable for them to want to know where they're going to be moving to in 2 weeks or
I agree.
however.
I've not
So,
personally heard of this update, but we'll follow up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get back to you.
Thank you. Next speakers.
I wanted
Mr.
to just make a comment. I went on a Friday morning. I was at Foxy's, and I had Mr. Spiritu walk right in front of me holding a cigarette, and which blew directly into my face, and it was certainly less than the 20 feet that you have to keep open from secondhand smoke. It was right directly in front of the entrance. I wanted to have Mr. Spiritu review that law and make sure that, and especially if he's working with the tenants, make sure that no secondhand smoke crosses into anyone's path.
Thank you. Patricia Lockett.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tricia Lockett. I'm the president of the Tenants Association over at Ivy Glen. And not to sound repetitious of what Dr. Richard has just spoke about, but I can speak for most of the tenants over at Ivy Glen. We're extremely upset, stressed out, and concerned about what's going to happen with us, whether they're going to tint the building or what's, if anything is even going to be done about it. On several occasions, we've tried calling Ability First to no avail. They have not returned our phone calls. They have blocked us from sending emails to them. So we're just trying to meet with Ability First and find out, can you tell us something, what's going on? Several of us at the building have had to be under doctor's care. We just want answers from Ability First, and we're not getting that. We're very stressed. January's coming up. What's going to happen? I know wherever I go, I'll be with my seeing eye dog. I have a small pet at home. I have no idea what's happening. Some of the tenants also have small pets. We don't know what's going on. We can't get them to respond to us. If there's anything you can tell us, it would be most appreciated. Like I said, we're just extremely stressed out. We don't know where to go or who to talk to because they're not responding to us. And I thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on.
Nick.
Just to staff, can we get Ability First to maybe come and speak to council? Because we've been hearing these kinds of complaints, and I just think enough is enough. This is a group of people that it's difficult for them to come and speak to us. And I want to, first of all, tell them that they can come speak to us. You don't need intermediaries. You can always send us emails or call us. But I would like to have someone from Ability First let us know what's going on, and I think it's unreasonable to ask people to move on 2 or 3 weeks' notice without knowing where they're going or what's going to happen to their belongings and their pets. I just think if that's really the case, that it's outrageous. So I'd like to hear from them.
We'll do it. I agree. Is there someone from the Community Development Department, former Community Development Department, that can give us an idea of what this situation is about, or...
Tell you what, we have another couple speakers on this item.
Oh, okay.
I think on this item. So let's hear from all the speakers, and then we can ask the questions. Joseph Hutchings.
Gee, this makes it easier. I didn't even know he had it. I also live at Ivy Glen. I was born here in Glendale. And I don't know, it's just the treatment you get from Ability First. It's only been the last few months. It's really been bad. They don't even seem to think that they have to respond. I have talked, communicated. I have to go through a third party to communicate with Schultz because they got my emails blocked. And he keeps saying, oh, I got something else to do. He has actually canceled 2-3 times. And it takes us a while because we have to make arrangements like for translators. It gets pretty, disheartening. And they get stressed out and everything else. That's about all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Herbert Milano.
Good afternoon, Housing Authority Chair Najarian, members of the Housing Authority, city staff. My name is Herbert Milano. It's been said quite often that the rising tide raises all boats. And we have seen how in the last 8 to 10 years, how the increases in the city's revenues have certainly been able to raise certain boats, but not all. It's one of the reasons why I was so very much interested in seeing the quality of life indicators and see how it is that that increase in revenues have translated into an increase in quality of life. I spent the past weekend looking over the CAFR that's now available online, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. And without the information on the quality of life indicators, at least I'm able simply to guess on what I see. And I asked myself, with the increase in roughly $400 extra million a year that the city revenues or the city expenditures are, if we're actually seeing sort of a doubling of the benefits, for particular areas in Glendale. If I were to take Recreational Planning Area 10, just to look at the geographical area with about 32,000 people, do we generally see an overall improvement that is doubled with regard to the quality of the roads or the quality of the sidewalks or the availability of domestic violence to be attended to in a much better way, or the ability to have better services for youth and families at risk? I ask myself, if with an additional $400 million a year, are we getting a commensurate improvement in the services, and the infrastructure of an area like that? If we were to look at what has happened with regard to taxation, and we look at sales taxes going back to 2002, sales tax income to the city went from 27 million in 2002 to 22 million in this last year. Now, it's a pretty good indicator of the economies of the general population. If there is less sales tax revenue, generally means that things are not doing so well. But yet, the revenues continue to increase significantly, particularly with property taxes. But the gap is being taken up by the increases in the utility tax, in the utility rates, and other taxes. In other words, the population is being taxed significantly a lot more directly through the utility users tax and other taxes, and indirectly through the increases in the utility rates. The statistical section provides a very nice recap of the utility rates overall for residential and non-residential, and I think it's a fantastic report in that regard. And so I began to look at what other cities are doing with regard to those rates and how it impacts them. Those increased rates are fairly significant compared to Burbank and Pasadena, and I'll come back to you with more detailed information on that. And I see it personally when my tenants continually complain to me about their very high cost of utilities. And so I took on an interest with regard to how the schools wind up paying for this as well. And it is in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars more, that they will be paying for the same amount of service that comparable cities would be paying. That means that the schools would be having fewer teachers, or they could hire more teachers if there were more income available to them. Now, even though $1 million or $2 million is not a significant amount overall for the city of Glendale, In today's revenues that cities, that the Unified School District gets, is a significant number. $2 million is about 25 teachers. And so I take a look at those ways in which the city brings in the income and how it basically translates into a burden to the residents, to the students, to the teachers, and to your sister government just down the road. It is my suggestion that the city truly consider the charges that it imposes on the Glendale Unified School District. And it is my suggestion that they should not be charged more than the wholesale price of electricity, simply because in years past they have borne a very high burden with regard to those utility rates. It is because the utility rates allow you then to transfer, $19 million from electricity, $4 million from water. That allows you to maintain those votes that have been risen up, which are primarily the salaries and the pensions, of the city's unions. But I don't believe that should be so much a burden on those residents who can least afford it, or the institutions that basically are looking out to our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's the last card I have. I didn't want to interrupt Mr. Milano, but I was trying to wave to Dr. Espiritu because we were going to...
Mr. Espiritu.
I'm sorry. Mr. Espiritu. But if he's out in the hall, we're going to ask Peter Zovak to come forward, and you heard some of the complaints. If you can just give us, obviously you don't have a report or anything, but just give us a little bit of information and answer some of those concerns.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the authority, I came in probably towards the last half of Mr. Espiritu's discussion, and I did hear mention of the termites. I don't know how much I missed, but we've been working with the developer, the owner, is Ability First. And we've been working with them since these concerns have been brought by some of the tenants of the building back as far back as June of 2009. Initially started when the longtime property manager was fired by the developer and a new property manager was installed in the project. So since that time, community development and housing staff has been working with the developer, with the owner, and with the tenants to the degree that we can on issues with regards to this transition from one longtime property manager to the new property manager, new implementation of rules that previously were not being implemented by the previous property manager, some HUD corrective actions when they had come out and conducted some inspections. And so we have found that the developer so far has been very cooperative with staff in all of our inquiries. The most recent comment I had heard regarding the termiting, that came up about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. I received a call from the planning office. The Historic Preservation Commission had questions regarding termiting of the good house and maintaining the historical nature of the building and anticipating termite repairs. So we called the developer, talked to them. They noted that they do have a termite problem at the facility, both in the new facility that they built around the historic facility, Good House. They were at that time going to get bids from different termiting contractors. They did not plan to try and do any treatment over the holidays, and anything they were going to decide upon would be enacted after that. So come 2010, they would do that. They had mentioned that if termiting required, the recommended treatment was to tent the facilities, that would necessitate making arrangements with the tenants to have them stay at alternative locations, most likely hotels, during that termite fumigation. I'm sure they're looking at alternatives because it is a very large impact to a special need population. They haven't made a decision yet, the last I have heard with them. And so we continue to monitor situations, comments, questions, concerns as they come up. And so far, we feel that the developer has addressed them, eventually addressed these issues in a way that we think that we are satisfied, at least. Certainly, there's been no violations of any of the city covenants or agreements that we have with them. HUD has been out there as well, has conducted their inspections and hasn't seen anything. We really think a lot of it is just communication. And it's a 24-unit building as well, and we've talked to, surveyed surveyed all the residents, and there are some residents that are happy with the changes that have gone on, happy with the new property management person, and what Ability First has been trying to do.
Ms. Friedman, then Mr. Quintero.
Well, it just sounds like maybe with some of the tenants, there's a breakdown of communication. Maybe we can help with that. I'm sorry they're not here. I don't know why they all left and didn't want to stay and hear the answer. I'm also worried that maybe some of this is being blown out of proportion by people that are jumping in and trying to maybe exploit this for their own reasons that I don't know, but maybe you or someone from your staff can sit down with the residents that were here or the president of the association and at least help foster some of that communication.
We continue to do that. There's a tenant, last we have heard, there's a tenant meeting with management on Friday, and we have a staff person that's been working this entire time attending that meeting to observe as well. And then there have been some serious issues there in terms of people being arrested for harassment. Just last week we had noticed that.
I'm getting that we've
took place
gone
with the tenant.
beyond the rules and flexibility of the Brown Act.
It's very involved.
We can at least be kept in the loop so that we're not blindsided by people coming in and speaking in public, so that we know what's going on, how to respond.
Let me just defer to the city attorney and let her tell us how much, or Mr. City Attorney, let us know how much further we can discuss this issue.
Yeah, I think because it's not something that's on the agenda, I think the staff has heard the comments, and staff will be getting responses back to the council. And I'm sure if there's something Mr. Starber wanted to add.
Okay.
Well, no, I have a
Go ahead.
question. I want to ask a question.
I had Mr. Quintero.
Yeah, my question is, once again, I've asked it in the past, but what are some of our obligations and exactly how much input can we give into this situations? Because I'm still not too clear exactly what can the City of Glendale or Community Development Department do.
Right now, the obligation of the developer to the City of Glendale is to maintain the condition of the property in terms of property maintenance, unit inspections, and to ensure that the tenants that occupy that building are qualified by meeting the income criteria. Most everything else is governed by HUD, since it is a HUD financed and sponsored facility.
Excuse me, I want to interrupt, and I beg your pardon, Peter, and yours, Mr. Mayor, but Mr. Chair, in a way, this is kind of unfair. It almost makes those of us who are trying to observe the instruction we're getting from the city attorneys as though we're Simon Legree for not chiming in to say, yes, we should take a role here. We all feel that way, and we've expressed this time and time again when this issue has come up. How about if we agendize it, and then we can be free to talk about it, give some instruction to staff, ask for some kind of coordination?
We'll agendize the broad topic right after the first of the year, and ask Ability First to be here with their plans relative to termite issues and anything else that's hanging out there.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
That's what we'll do. Save the city attorneys from coronaries as we continue to delve deeper and deeper.
Go into the holidays with a stroke on the left end of the dais.
Okay, that did conclude oral communications. Business agenda? None. Authority member staff comments? Any comments? Mr. Minson?
You're not going to look my way.
Try not to, Mr. Minson.
Yesterday, we had the end of an era here in Glendale. Since I particularly represent the senior citizens, we have had 2 AARP branches here in Glendale. But because people work longer, younger people are working longer, they're not retiring as early because of the economy, and the older people are dying off, we're getting smaller and smaller group. And some of you have been to our AARP meeting. I was president for a couple of years, and we had an average of attendance of 150 or so, and it was very vibrant. Now they're lucky to have 30. And they can't pay for a program and rent a auditorium or church anymore. So yesterday was the last day local AARP meeting. But we had a lovely luncheon with chicken from Dinah's, ham from honey baked ham, cake from Portola's. I chose the food, so that's why I know that.
Good taste.
But we had 83 people there. 73. It was very nice day. We had our oldest member, by the way, who is a charter member, is 103, going almost 104. Still drives. But she told me yesterday she doesn't take passengers anymore.
That's a motorcycle.
And nor does she drive the freeway. But this woman, you'd never know, though, she was 100 and her age, because she always dresses elegant and has such a nice personality, and where you see someone that's 70 that looks like they're on death's door. But it was kind of an end of an era. And I just wanted to, by the way, several say they watch us every week, so I want to tell everybody that's watching that we appreciate you. And I know there will be many other events for you. So thank you, AARP Group.
Thank you. Any other comments? I have a comment. I'll get to you after that, Mr. Starboard. I received a phone call from a resident who wished to remain anonymous, complaining about the high incidence of luxury cars being parked in our affordable housing complexes. So I would like staff to come back and give us some information. Is this just a misobservation, or are there a lot of Mercedes, Lexuses, BMWs being driven by those in our affordable housing community? And perhaps you can give us some information on that as soon as you get a chance to look into that. Mr. Starboard.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just very quickly, Mr. Milano's still here. I think he indicated in his comments an increase of $400 million in revenues or expenditures in the course of the year. And as an aside, maybe when we're done here, if he can give me that number, because I'm having a real hard time understanding where that comes from. In a total city government budget of about $800 million, $400 million wouldn't happen in a year. It wouldn't happen in many years. So maybe I misheard. I knew that I probably wouldn't get clarity by watching the video. So maybe after the meeting he can give me his source on that.
Thank you. Any other staff comments, member comments? We have no new business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
The authority is adjourned.
All right. I'll call to order the joint public meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Glendale Housing Authority. May we have a roll call for the City Council, please?
Council members Draymond.
Here.
Friedman.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.